Hi.
Classical Music Livestream. Hi, James. How are you, my friend?
Hi, Anthony. I'm well. I'm doing well. As I say, it's about 25 degrees in this living room here in London.
What in the flat in Vassal Road?
Yeah, in Termite Towers, we've got
Termite Tower.
25 degrees here.
Wow, London's having a long 3-day summer.
It is all 3 days. We're supposed to be getting terrible torrential rain tomorrow.
Oh, really? Oh,
which is
boy.
not surprising. I mean, we don't get more than 3 days decent weather, and then something happens.
Well, we're in the middle of our dry season, and we've had about 12 weeks without one drop of rain. But we did have a day of rain 2 days ago, which is very rare, and it's totally brown around here. And in Victoria, it's green in the winter and brown in the summer because our dry season lasts about 5 months. So yeah, but it's been absolutely beautiful. It's been the most glorious 4 months. So let's see. It's great to see you tonight. Scott is up visiting his mom. He'll be back next week. And Carl is back. Carl is back in New York. He'll be on in a couple of minutes. And I did send Jack an invite ahead of time because he's special, a very special person. Also, we had a little bit of room tonight because Scott was away. And of course, Jack is an incredible pinch hitter. So let's do the comments and see what we got here. So, of course, Joey's always on a little bit earlier. Hey, Joey, how are you? Hello, everyone.
Hi, Joey.
Everyone is well. And he says, it's classical time, baby. And then Joey asked about Jack, do you have a fan page on Facebook? Jack was saying, I feel terrible. Was just listening to an old Digi record on Verve from about 1961, a classic record.
Oh.
Yes, Jack stays away from social media. I've been trying to get him on WhatsApp, but and Joey says, hi, James and Anthony.
Hi, Joey.
And straight talk. Jack said, yeah, the maestro and James. James is a maestro as well. James is the maestro. He made me call him the maestro for 10 years, and then we stopped. Yes, the maestro. And Frederick Morris. Hi, Frederick. Happy to join First Time Live. Very happy to have you, Frederick. Thank you so much for coming live. Please comment lots, ask lots of questions. As we say, there's no wrong question. All questions are great. And I'll put the Jack. I'll put the invite right here. So just come on up. Because I put it on your email, but you know. So there you go, Jack. For Jack. Okay, and that's while we're waiting. We have our great friend Carl Sigmund. Hey, Carl, how are you?
Oh, tired, but good to be home.
Hey, Carl.
And there he is in New York. And straight on, of course, is the pinch hitter of all pinch hitters is Jack Graham. It's from Straight Talk with Jack. Hey, Carl, welcome back. How are you?
Thank you. No, it's been interesting. It was brutal getting here, and I've had to spend days trying to get the apartment back in order for my wife.
Oh, I bet before your wife comes home.
We're getting there.
Where are all the plants, Carl?
Yeah.
They all died. Look. The lady sent me a message. She said, I'm so sorry for killing your plants, but I don't like plants and I don't know how to take care of them.
Oh my God.
No.
So you're back in New York City, and I see a turntable behind you, a VPI turntable, and some headphones.
Yeah, my system is back as a speaker, LPs. Yeah, I'm back listening all day at a blast.
I bet you are. What was it like when you heard the first sounds coming out of those speakers? My God, after 7 months.
Yeah, it was really. It made me say, the hell with headphones.
Well, yeah, we know what headphones are for. So let me just go through some of the comments. Again, for those who are just joining us, Scott is away. He's traveling today. He's going to be in New Hampshire visiting his mom and his family, and Scott will be back next week. So we have UP. Good evening, all. Hi, UP, and hello from Jeremy. And of course, my favorite name, Postal Playboy. Cheers, everyone. And Jack has already said the dynamic duo of Maestri. Yeah, that's right. And then Alan, that's cranberry sauce. We know Alan, we're in the know, so we know Alan well. Cranberry sauce. Hello, team of music lovers. Looking forward to tonight's records and guest. Yes. And Jerome Sabbagh, who's our guest tonight, has a little bit of a surprise for the classical people because we know he's a great jazzer. But there's a little surprise. And Richard says, good evening, everybody. Good evening, Richard. And Daryl. Hi, Daryl. I don't think you're new. I think you've been here before, but it's very nice to see you back. And Flaming Groove listens. Good afternoon. I wonder where you're listening from or viewing from. Anyway, it's great to see you. So let's go through our little schedule here. I send a rundown where they don't read it, but that's fine. Actually, they did tonight. They were right on. So again, please comment lots and ask lots of questions. If you could please like and subscribe, that helps the channel. And don't be shy. Follow Jack's lead from the second show. Jack was on, man, and showing records, talking about playing and gigs. So don't be shy. Jump on and show some records or ask questions in person, or just come and hang out. By the way, was it Sky, the gentleman last week? You said his name? This was Sky.
Yeah, Sky.
Yeah, Sky. Wonderful. I ordered those 2 records, Sky, just so you know, straight away. One was easy to get. One was a little more challenging. So I've got them coming from what is it? eBay. Yeah. Okay. And there's no wrong questions or silly questions. Anything classical goes. And Flaming Groove is from San Pablo, California. Wonderful. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with the new releases. Let me just get this up. And some stuff that has come. I'm going to put myself large. Oh, look who's there. Good evening. Watching from Lobsterland. Scott, we miss you terribly. Come back.
Scott.
Come back. All is forgiven.
My goodness.
Hope you had a safe trip up to New Hampshire or Maine, and that your mom is well, and you're having those amazing lobster rolls, and everyone's thinking about you. So fantastic. Thanks for commenting, Scott. So let's just go to me. I'm going to go large for a second. So a couple of things came in this week I think people will be interested in. First of all, if you've been on Facebook or anywhere following me on social media, you'll know this saga. This is the 3-box set, Bruckner Symphony Numbers 7, 8, and 9, Vienna Philharmonic, Carlo Giulini, the DG remastering by the Emil Berliner Studios, and pressed at optimal. They need to change that word, less than optimal, after my first 2 boxes were destroyed with overfill. This one works. There's a few bumps and bruises on it. My arm and cartridge can handle it, but there are 3 incredible performances, and the recordings are beautiful. And the Emil Berliner Studios did a wonderful job with the digital remastering. So is it as good as a Decca at the height of Wilkie and the Tree in Kingsway? Probably not, but who cares? It is so beautiful, and the playing is fantastic. So the reason I went 3 times, this last one came on from eBay, 150 US plus I had to pay duty and stuff, because it's worth it. And I had a hint from the records that I had in those first 2 boxes that I wanted this set, even though I've got the carry-on set coming. So anyway, that's wonderful and highly recommended. I didn't do a full review of it. I did quite a long video on it. So if you want to go check the video out. Now, this one I spoke about last week because of Angie's beautiful review, very moving review of Horenstein's Mahler Symphony Number 3, which was incredible. Jack bought it, I bought it, and I love it. Have you listened to it yet, Jack?
Yeah, I'm not as strong on it as you.
That's right. You prefer carry-in.
Sorry, number 3.
Bernstein. Yeah.
Yeah, it's real good though.
I love it for the orchestral playing, which I think is incredible, and I love the recording. But it's great that we all have different opinions. But one thing I'd forgotten about, because you keep hearing about this Horenstein cult, which is absolute crap. Horenstein was a great conductor, and you may not like Jack's not too fussed with his 3. Angie loves it. I love it.
The difference between number 1 and number 3 is
and his Mahler one's very good. But one thing I remember, and hearing it for the first time was many years ago, was this. This is the Nielsen Symphony Number 5 with Saga drum, which is a kind of just a filler. This is when it was the New Philharmonic Orchestra under Hornstein on Unicorn, recorded by Bob Auger, and I think I think this was at Barking. Yeah, this is the Barking Assembly Hall, which is not a place that I know, but it'll be a nice big acoustic. But that is a killer record, and let me tell you why. Let me just go back out of so we will there. Nielsen wrote that symphony about 1930, and it's only in 2 movements, and it's a wonderful symphony, beautiful melodies, but it's a very dramatic, powerful symphony. And it's very interesting. If you know the 4th symphony, The Inextinguishable, it has a timpani battle. So he likes to have 2 people going at each other to kind of go against the orchestra. Well, in this one, in Symphony Number 5, he has a snare drum. And the snare drum is told, try and stop the orchestra. We want you to overpower the orchestra. So as this kind of not monotonous kind of melody that is repeated over and it's ostinato over and over again, you have this that rhythm, and it gets louder and louder, and then he does an ad lib to try and stop the orchestra. Every recording I've heard, the players do it very well. If it's Chicago, San Francisco's a famous one with Blomstedt, and the original with Bernstein is very, very good. But this one is with Alfred Dukes. I have never heard snare drum playing like it. I mean, literally, I think one of the tricks is how it was recorded. But he uses rim shots as well. And he really tries to stop the Philharmonia before they get that beautiful cadence and in the major key that just changes all the changes the feeling of the symphony. But he tries like mad. It's an amazing performance by, again, Alfred Dukes. And Alfred Dukes is actually named on the record, which is interesting. A snare drummer, and also named on the record is a fellow named John McCaw, who was a principal clarinet of the Philharmonia. And we know John McCaw. Jim and I have worked with him. And John McCaw, named Jack McCaw. Jack McCaw was a legendary clarinet player from New Zealand in London, National Philharmonic, all the film scores, but also principal of the Philharmonia. And any clarinet player worth his salt knows his recordings of the Nielsen and the Mozart, and they love him. He's not as famous as Jack Breimer or the guys from the Berlin Phil, but he's an incredible player. And the clarinet part in Nielsen 5 is an incredible part. And he plays it absolutely beautifully. It's magnificent. So I will tell you one story about English players. As vice president of the Students' Union at Trinity, it was my job to get the adjudicator for the finals of the chamber music competition that James won. I was runner-up.
I won, yes.
And James has never, ever let me forget it, the bastard.
Yeah, the certificate's on the wall. Yeah.
There, but mine's good. Did yours have Yehudi Menuhin sign it? Did Yehudi sign it?
No, I got Muradis signed mine.
Oh, yeah, mine was... mine was signed by somebody named Yehudi Menuhin.
Right.
Yeah, no, anyway. So Jim and I, we had history with this chamber music competition. So I called up Mr. McCaw. I said, Mr. McCaw, are you available to adjudicate the finals of our chamber music competition at Trinity College of Music? He went, oh, yes, that'd be fine. I said, I gave him the date. He said, oh, I'm with the Philharmonia, but I can send a sub. And he said, would you mind if I ask what the fee is? And I said, would £85 be enough? I swear to God, first of all, the phone went silent. And then I think he fainted. And it just shows you how much orchestral players make in England, which is peanuts compared to Boston and Chicago.
Yeah.
And he was like, oh, that would be fine. Thank you very much. And he came, and of course, he was the most wonderful adjudicator, a gentleman. And of course, he's a legendary musician. So when we have Robert Wolfrey on from the Cleveland Orchestra, my buddy clarinet player, well, I'll ask him about Jack McCaw. And of course, they all know him because he's a legend. But sometimes you hear, oh yeah, I've got Jack Breimer with Beecham, and they're all great. But Jack McCaw's Mozart and his Nielsen concerto. But now, one thing for the record people here, I ordered this, and it's the Dutch pressing. They went to Unicorn decamped to Holland, It's very good. Don't get me wrong, but I've ordered the British one because I'm an idiot. So I've got the British one coming as well.
Anthony, where do you order your records from? I mean,
I never do Discogs. I don't like Discogs. I only do eBay. I check the person, and then I excuse me, and then I check the history. Let's see what we got here. Oh, UP said safe travels. Oh, Cranberry Sauce said, in March I bought the Hornstein Nielsen 5, exactly as you have. Now I had to go and listen to it. Yeah, watch the volume.
I tell you what, talking about Hornstein, I mean, his final recording was that Marla Four he did with the London Phil, which was on Classics of Pleasure.
That's right. Yeah.
And Margaret Price is the soprano soloist in it. And I think it's a wonderful, it's my favorite Marla Four.
It's a wonderful Marla Four. Maggie Price, when Jim and I went to Trinity, they were still talking about Margaret Price 10 years after she graduated in the halls. And James Gadan, Jim's teacher, taught her. And Margaret Price was Kleiber's choice for Isolde, and his DG Tristan. She's incredible. But once again, she's, movement on the stage, there are different types of body parts, types. And so she wasn't really kind of the heroine type, but her voice, oh my. And she's a wonderful lady. And literally, they were still talking about her in the halls of Trinity. Like, oh, did you remember Maggie's recital?
She retired to Aberystwyth or somewhere on the Welsh coast, and she bred corgis or something, corgi dogs for, But sadly, she passed away a few years ago now. But she was always a great character. Always, always very, very lively. If you met her with a glass of wine at a party or something.
Amazing lady, and the voice. Jen, Cranberry Sauce, Alan, right? Yeah, Alan, of course. Sorry, there's been a lot going on. Carl, do you want to read that, bud?
Well, Carl's stereo system looks wonderful. I hope he'll give us a tour. Well, I could just quickly show with the camera later for everyone.
Okay, well, I'll tell you, we've got about 10 minutes before Jerome comes on. But afterwards, when you're doing your streaming a little bit, if you could show us around, that would be great.
Sure.
That'd be great. Now, Joey, is this a joke or are you being serious? Isn't there a movie coming out about Leonard Bernstein? Yes, it's been out. It's called Maestro, our favorite word. The reason he was Maestro is that when Jan and I took our children to Tanglewood when they were young, and he was conducting Brahms 1 with the Boston Symphony, which was a good performance. It wasn't great, but it was very good. We were on the lawn. It was lovely, beautiful weather. But we went for a walk in the intermission and around the back, and he had his copper gull-wing 1950s Mercedes, and his license plate was Maestro 1. So, Jan, I'm only just Maestro. I'm not even Maestro 1. I'll be Maestro 2. Or Jim can be Maestro 3. Jim can be Maestro 3.5. Anyway,
you'll be Morris Maestro.
Morris Maestro. So
Morris Thousand Maestro. Yeah.
So let's go to some of the new releases coming out. And please, guys, comment away if you know these. So this is coming out in August. This is Klaus Makler again, the Wunderkind. But he's doing this great repertoire. I mean, Shostakovich 4 is my favorite. 5 is incredible. 6 is not my favorite, but 4 and 5. But he's doing it with the Oslo Phil. I heard part of it today. It was very good. It's a fine orchestra. But he's got the Chicago Symphony. And he's got the Concertgebouw he could do it with. So, I don't know. You should just wait, I think. But anyway, he's getting it. I guess it's contractual. But that's coming out. Should be interesting. And what else we got? Now, this is interesting. This is out now. It's done by Apple Music. It's for streaming, so more under Carl's domain. And I was streaming it all week as I was writing through my laptop. And it's a concert with Muti, one of Jim's favorites, conducting the Vienna Phil, doing Mozart Symphony, Hindemith, concert music for strings and brass, which I've spoken about on here. Jim's and my conductor teacher loved that piece when it wasn't programmed much, and they programmed it, and I got to conduct a little bit of it. It was amazing. And then he does Mendelssohn, the Reformation Symphony, which is wonderful. So check that out. It's just a streaming from a live show they did under the auspices of the NFL. Very, very good. Now, I want to read something. Paul McDowell. Hi, Paul. How are you? From Dedham. I'm going to read you something that the lovely Paul wrote to me. Let me go. Remove that for a second. So, Paul was the gentleman who won Jack's Bruckner 4. That Jack. I sent it to Paul. Shipped it to Paul in the most beautiful shipping that Jack already sent me, which was great. So Paul wrote, "Hi again, Anthony. I have now had a chance to hear the Barenboim and absolutely love it. As with the other original source reissues I own, the improvement over the standard DG release is quite striking. A first pass through reveals the stunning ensemble of the brass in the third movement. While it was already impressive in the original, this remake has so much more immediacy." Oh, that's wonderful. The other aspect that stuck out was the heft and body of the mass strings in the second movement. I've always thought that this first cycle was the best of Barenboim's efforts. Anyway, thank you once again for a wonderful gift, Paul. And that's from the great Jack, who sent that to me to send to you, Paul, when you won. We have not heard yet from the other fellow, the fellow who won the Angie's turntable. So that'll be fun. And just to let you know, this is coming out August 2nd. I've ordered it for the business so I can review it for the magazine and review it for the video.
How much is that, Anthony?
I'm going to show it to you because Jan's watching. No, Jan doesn't mind. She was the one that told me to get. I said, "Sweetheart, the Stones is $500." She went, "What, you want to get it?" I said, "Yeah." She went, "Just buy it." The greatest wife. Anyway, and so that's coming. But I bought it for work, right? So it'll be interesting. 1, 2, and 3 are digital. The rest are analog. All done from 8-track by the Emil Berliner Studios. And Rainier Mayad, the head guy there, developed his own cutting board. Let's just get you big. Hang on, my friend. Okay. There he is. Okay. Now that's his second. That's the version that's in this box.
Yeah, this isn't as good. I'm not real happy with it.
What are you not happy with?
The recording it just doesn't sound right.
Well, that's interesting. Well, we know why. We know why.
The playing's great. It's just the recording is not there.
Well, it'll be interesting to see how the ninth, all the symphonies come when Emil Berliner has a go at them.
But you know what's funny? I listened to this afternoon. It's not Bruckner, but it's Sibelius. This is another von Karajan, but on the
Tulip.
Yeah, and it sounds much better.
Well, his fifth is amazing. I love his fifth symphony. That's a very famous record. Yeah, the early ones he didn't fiddle around as much. The earlier Bruckner ninth is very beautiful. It was my first one I ever had. I fell in love with that symphony. Listen to that.
The Tulip labels sound so much better. They really do.
Now, I was going to show something else. So there's that. Now, my friend Peter Purich, a wonderful violinist, his son's coming onto the show. Leo Purich is a composer, incredible, gifted composer, and he's a professional violist. But he said to me, "Anthony, we were talking about Sibelius a little while ago, and he mentioned that Sibelius was and he said this Sibelius was incredible, and it's with what's the lady's name? Camilla Wicks. Do you know that one, Jim?
No.
Well, I listened to it. You can stream it. Scott said it's very expensive. It's like $800 on eBay. So it's very rare. It's mono. The Symphony Orchestra of Stockholm Radio, which was Sixten Ehrling, is pretty good Swedish conductor. But she's her playing. She left playing to Juilliard, I think, or Curtis. Left playing to raise her children. She has 4 or 5 children, and it's marvelous. If you love the Sibelius Concerto like I do, try and find that. It's on Apple Music, I think. Or
right. Okay.
Maybe it's on Cobos, but it's truly magnificent.
What year was that recorded?
1950.
Before, so it's definitely mono. Yeah.
Definitely mono. Yeah. So we have in a couple of minutes, our friend Jerome's coming on. That'll be wonderful. And then I was nailing down, especially the summer is very challenging. So John Stratton from Pure Fidelity was supposed to be on. He's got a few surprises for us as well. John Stratton was supposed to be on the 21st, but that's his wife's special birthday, which of course he, like all musicians and high-end guys, he forgot. So he's in deep shtuck over that. So he's coming on the 28th. And then we've got John Ailing and hopefully Steve Hoffman, Robert Wolfe from the Cleveland Orchestra. Dr. Mark Berry is an amazing guy, fascinating guy, brilliant man, brilliant writer. And then I mentioned Leo, and of course Abby from Impact. So we're working on getting those. That's for another little bit later on. So let me just get rid of that. Remove. Okay. So I did have some new gear announcements, but wait, I think Jerome's going to be coming on very shortly. So did you what have you been doing since you got home, Carl? Did you just get the stereo set up?
Well, don't tell my wife. It's the first thing I set up. I opened the suitcases up and I went right to it.
You did, eh?
But the hard part was this, the speakers weigh about 100 pounds each. And my back's not great.
They're not the Aphrodite. They're not the Aphrodites, are they? They're the.
But I did talk to Mike. He's gonna be getting them to me at some point.
At some point, you have a job to do, my friend.
At some point in the future. No. So,
and anyway. Here he is. And here he is, Jerome Sabbagh from the Analog Tone Factory. Hi, Jerome. How are you?
Good. How are you? How's everybody?
Everyone's doing really well. We're just so happy to have you. I know what it's like trying to get people. I know that Jerome's been very busy going back and forth to Europe and playing. If you don't know Jerome will tell us a story in a second, but he's one of the top tenor players in New York City, which means one of the top in the world because New York City is the best place. But he also has a purely analog record company called Analog Tone Factory, which we're fascinated to hear all about. So how's life in New York, Jerome?
Life is good. It's pretty hot right now, but other than that, it's nice.
It's 30 degrees in London. It's 22 degrees and sunny here. But what's it like in Tennessee, Jack? You're on mute, bud. You're on mute.
A lot of people will be happy about that.
No. What's it like in Tennessee? Hot?
When people ask, I just say it's hot and it might rain.
Typical summer. So Jerome's in Brooklyn, right, Jerome?
Yes.
And Carl is on Riverside Drive. Excuse me.
It's gotten quite hot starting today. It was cool for a while, but today is getting bad.
Oh, very nice. So Jerome, can you tell us a little bit about where you're from originally and where you studied the saxophone? I'm going to put you on solo. There we go. So tell us your story, Jerome, and not about the Analog Tone Factory yet. This is just the Jerome story and the tenor sax story.
Okay. I grew up in Paris, France. I was born in 1973. I moved to the U.S. In 1993. I went to Berklee College of Music in Boston. I spent 2 years there, studied with Billy Pierce and Joe Viola and George Garzon. Then I moved to New York, and I didn't think I was going to necessarily stay there, but I ended up staying, and I'm still here in Brooklyn. Yep, that's basically it.
Wonderful. Let me just put a banner up for you so everybody knows where to go. So Jerome's website is jeromesabagh.com. It's an incredibly beautiful website with all great images of his recordings. So please go there, and you can actually buy the records right from the Jerome Sabbagh website. And Jack and I will talk about the records in a minute and how much we're enjoying them. So tell us a little bit how you got started. What was it like playing jazz in New York in the, I guess, the early 2000s? I remember when I was a kid, New York was $15 a night and a meal, and that was it. Has it gotten any better?
It's gotten better, but it's it's tricky. It's like New York is where all the best players come. So you have this incredible reservoir of talent, people who come from all around the world. And it's very, it's both inspiring and challenging, and it's hard to make a living and find a place for yourself, but it's also really motivating. So I played a lot of gigs in a lot of small places, started playing with people, and slowly making a name for myself and putting out records. And that's basically still what I do, but I love it. I mean, it's also a place where you can hear the greatest musicians in jazz music on earth still. And back in the 90s and early 2000s, there were a lot more of them around. So you could go to clubs and still listen to like Tommy Flanagan and like Elvin Jones and Art Blakey and Tony Williams. Those were really important experiences for me, because I got to be very close to a lot of my heroes, and hearing their sound in a small room. I mean, there's nothing like it as a young player to try to absorb some of it.
Wow, it must have been incredible. Now, my father would tell me stories. He was a tenor player, as you know, that he would take, when he was younger, he would take his sax around and sit by the stage. And when there was a break, he'd say to the leader, "Can I come and sit in for a set?" Right? And 99 times out of 100, the guy would go, "Get lost, kid. Get out of here." Right? But once in a while, they'd say, "Sure, come on up." And that's how he learned a lot of his chops. Did that ever happen to you? Did you ever go and ask, "Can I sit in with you guys?" And they just said, "Yeah, come on up." Or
I have not often, and there are legit jam sessions where you just go and that's the accepted practice, and everybody does that. So I did that a bunch when I moved to New York. Yeah, like Smalls in New York is a place where a lot of people went to, still go to play, because every night at after the last set around 12:30 or 1 a.m. it's a jam session, so anybody can come and play, and that's kind of what happens. There's other places, and back when I moved to New York, there were more places like that. As far as going to an actual gig, somebody's set and asked to sit in, usually you might get asked if you know people and if they know you, and that's a more kind of proper way to do it. It's a little brazen to just kind of show up and be like, "Hey, can I play on your gig?" But I have sat in with people before, and it's part of how we all learn this music, and it's part of how the music gets passed on from one generation to the next.
That's wonderful. So do you teach as well in New York City? Do you have students?
I do. I actually have done a fair amount of teaching. I'm kind of phasing that down at the moment, but I still have some private students once in a while. So yeah.
Oh, that's great. Let me just get you get the rest of the gang in here, and I'm going to show some things. So I first heard of Jerome. Jerome actually he cold called me, or cold emailed me, and said, "Anthony, you had this record. This record. Would you like to review it for Audiophilia?" And I love young people, helping young people, and not that Jerome needed my help because he's brilliant, but I just said, "I didn't know. I'm sure I'll review it. Send it along." And he sent it along. And let me just get this up here. There we go. And it was the one before these two records. What was it called, Jerome?
So the one before these two was No Filter.
No Filter, yeah. You got
a great all analog one.
Got a great review, and on the back he wrote me a beautiful note on the record, and he got a great review, absolutely well deserved. And I was thinking to myself, all this pure analog. And this was what year did you record No Filter?
That was 2018.
Yeah, so it was just before the pandemic and before the FOMO and before the total explosion. So it was like, oh, this is pure analog. Okay. Is that good? It sounds wonderful. I like analog, of course. And then ever since then, it's blown up. And Jerome's going to talk about his company in a second. But then came, and it was very good. I listened to it. I really enjoyed it. Gave it a great review. Wonderful young talent. Then Jerome sent me. I've seen Jerome at audio shows I've seen him at attending audio shows, and We'll talk about that in a second, who's sponsoring you and your company, Jerome. But Jerome sent me the second album. Anthony, could you review that one? Of course, the first one was so good. I hope you don't mind me saying, Jerome, this one is a completely different league. Number one, it's got Kenny Barron in it. Smart people always surround themselves with excellence. I mean, look at the people that work on this place. You got me, but we've got Jim and Carl, and Jack, and of course, amazing Scott. Surround yourself with excellence. And so Jerome had Joe Martin and Jonathan Blake, who usually they play for you pretty regularly, right? Those guys?
Yeah, I've played with Joe for 20 years.
Yeah, well, they're both wonderful.
Yeah,
wonderful.
And I play with Jonathan fairly often, and he's one of my favorites.
Wonderful. But then, of course, look who's there on that, Kenny Barron. Now, Kenny Barron is amazing on it. He's just incredible. But so is a guy named Jerome Sabbagh, is absolutely incredible. And I think I wrote down in the review, Jerome's been practicing. And it's not so much the technique, but the sound is so beautiful. The recording is outstanding. Totally, I think it's all analog, right, Jerome?
Yep.
Yeah, all analog. And technically, but also musical ideas, as you get older and you have more experience, the musical ideas get deeper. And so I was knocked out by Vintage. I also put it in our Audiophilia Dream List. It's that good. Amazing. So if you don't have that, you can go to jeromesabbagh.com and go buy it. You're going to love it. Also, before we get on to Heart, who does your artwork, Jerome?
So this is a French designer by the name of Jerome Sabbagh, and I have worked with him for a number of years. So basically, I asked him to, keep working with me, and we kind of devised this kind of framework together with like the white kind of banner with like the names of the musicians, and we always use different photos. So the one for Vintage is black and white and old New York, like 1936. And the one for Heart is by an Italian photographer, Michele Palazzo, and he works here in New York, and I just liked his work, so I asked him to, if he would, license us a couple of pictures for the artwork. But yeah, I think we're going to try to keep that going for the next releases.
Wonderful. I know that, let me see if I've got some comments here. I know that Tech Rider has a question for you, Jerome. I own a 2018 No Filter album of Jerome. Questions: the more recent releases evolved in recorded sound since 2018. Have they? Have they evolved?
Well, the way we've done things that has evolved a little bit. No Filter was done at Sierra Sound. That was live to 2-track tape recorded by James Farber. That was to an ATR 102. And what you hear is like the sound of us playing in that room to that machine. Like the sound of the room is really important. Like those 3 records happen to have been done in 3 different rooms. Vintage was done at Octaven upstate, which is like a bigger room with like higher ceilings, more reflections. And that was done multi-track, so to a multi-track tape to a Studer A820. And then we mixed it to a custom tube Ampex 351. Heart was done at Power Station C, which is one of the great rooms in New York. And that room to me is kind of ideal because it's like, it feels really good to play in. You got a little bit of reverberation, but not much. Like it's easier to control drums, for example, than in a larger room like Octaven. It feels really good. And that was done live to 2-track by James Farber to the Ampex 351. So there's like different machines, different days, different players, different repertoires. So I think you're hearing on these 3 records the result of all these choices, but they're all done analog. They're all done in the room with everybody together. So the sound of the room and where you put the mics, like that's gonna matter a lot, So I think you're hearing those choices. Now, in terms of techniques and recording, you're also hearing like different microphones. Like these places have different mics. Like at Sear Sound, I love the Neumann M49 that they have. That's what's on No Filter on the saxophone. For Hart, it's a Telefunken 251, which is also an amazing mic. And that might be my favorite mic of everything that I've played into over the years. So basically, it's like cooking. You know, you got all these different ingredients, and you're trying to make the best thing you can. And sometimes, and the choices you make are going to affect the result. Like Vintage, we went to Octaven because of the quality of the pianos there, and because Kenny Barron was involved.
Yeah, Kenny's involved. You better get the piano right on. That's right.
Yeah,
Mr. Juilliard professor.
Yeah, that's kind of like what dictated or the choice of that room for that record was like, well, we think that's the best piano that we can get, so let's do that.
Tech Writer has a great question for you, Jerome. Which are you most happy with in terms of sound quality? Thank you. Of course, it's like choosing your favorite child. It's pretty impossible, but
I mean, I actually do think that there is progress in sound quality between those three records. Like, I like No Filter, but I think Vintage sounds better to my ears, and I think Hart sounds better than Vintage.
Really, I think they're both amazing. So, Jack, can you do a little kind of a précis about Hart? I know you bought it right away, and we were talking about it. So while you've got the maestro here, the other maestro.
Yeah, you know, the highest compliment you can pay to an artist is, you know, that's Jerome's playing, or that's Kenny Barron's playing. I remember seeing Kenny when he first started working with Dizzy back in the 60s, I think it was. And I said, who is this guy? And it was Kenny Barron. But, you know, when I listened to your playing, you know, the first time I listened to you play, I said, well, there's Lester Young in there, and there's Charles Lloyd in there. Mm-hmm. Coming up with all these guys, I said, no, this guy's got a sound that's very unique. And I'm not just saying that because you're here. I do it.
He said this last week as well, but by the way.
Well, no. I mean, I do a channel called Straight Talk with Jack. It's all about jazz. I mentioned your record probably 2 months ago.
Oh, thank you.
Because I was blown away with it. And, you know, the sound on the new record I think is really improved. And I think you're right. These microphones make such a difference.
Oh, yeah.
If you read Al Schmidt's book, Al Schmidt was a great engineer.
Oh, yeah.
And he was a genius on microphones. Half that book is about microphones.
I love Al Schmidt's work. To me, he's one of the all-time greats.
If I remember right, he used that Neumann and the Telefunken on saxophones.
Yeah, actually, I think I read that he used a lot of 251s, actually.
Yeah. But, you know, I can't add too much to what Anthony already said. I'd be piling on. But, you know, I mean, unfortunately, some of, you know, all our heroes, Jerome, are passing on or getting too old to play. And thank God there's people like you that are keeping going. You know, and I grew up around New York and was happy to, at 17, ride the subway and put my ear in back of the half note to hear people play through the doors. And, you know, you can't do that anymore. So, you know, thank you for what you do. Keep putting great recordings out. And Anthony, thank you for having this great.
Oh, are you kidding? I've been a big fan of Jerome.
I'm not piling on here. I'm just, you know, all the young players, you know, we all know who the Dexters are and all these guys, but folks that are listening, there's Jerome, and Jerome will tell you there's probably another dozen, you know, really good players that nobody even knows who they are that are walking around Manhattan right now.
That's right.
There's a lot of great players in New York and elsewhere.
Jerome, I got a question about Hart for you.
Yep.
And Jack and we spoke about this on the show, and I know Jack has spoken about it on his show. That there's no piano. Mm-hmm. It's bass and drums. I'm a harmony guy, and first thing Jack says was, "You better have a good bass player." Well, you do. An amazing bass player, right?
You need a bass player that listens.
Absolutely. Yeah.
That's the key. It's the interaction.
So I was saying, when I was studying the flute in London, my teacher would say to me when I was playing solo, I talked about this the other day, I'd be playing solo music, and as I was playing, you know, and trying to make it work, he said, you know, Anthony, you have to have it in your mindset. You have to make your own harmony, which means through emphasis and phrasing and whatever. And you do that beautifully. Because when you at first heard there's no piano, I was like, oh, okay, well, I'm going to give it a good listen. But it's absolutely beautiful. It works beautifully. Harmonically, it works beautifully. Of course, because you're bass player. So why did you make that decision about Heart for Kenny wasn't available, or Kenny?
Well, Vintage was about playing with Kenny, and Heart is about playing with Al Foster. As much as I like Joe, and as important as Joe is key to the sound of this record, like Al Foster is my favorite living drummer, and I had been wanting to play with him for like forever, for 12 years. I think I approached him 12 years ago. You were talking about sitting in earlier. I actually did sit in on one of his gigs, on several of his gigs over the years, but like the first one was probably 12 years ago. And my friend Rodney Green, who's a drummer who lives, I mean, he's in Jersey now, but we used to play a lot, and he used to live in New York. I actually did a trio record with him back in 2008. And Rodney knew Al and basically arranged for me to go sit in with Al, for which I'm very grateful. And that was my introduction to Al Foster. And then over the years, I did this a few more times. And then I would try to get him on a gig, but that didn't work out. And once or twice, they called me to play in his band, but that actually didn't work out either. So we had all these like close calls over the years. And I went to his gigs a lot. He used to play the Vanguard with his band. I had a great band, different versions of that band, but like Kevin Hayes on piano, Dana Stevens on saxophone, Ellie DeGibri before Dana, and Doug Weiss on bass. So I love that band, heard that band a lot. And, I had it in the back of my mind that like I would love to just do one gig with Al at some point. So finally, maybe 3 years ago, I got him on a gig, and I was about to give up actually, because I was like, oh, I don't know if this is going to happen, but let me just try one last time. And lo and behold, he said yes. So we did the gig, and the gig went really well. And after that, it was cool. Like I could call him again, and he would, play with me again. And one thing led to another. And after the second gig, I was like, we really should record this. And so we went into the studio and did Heart.
Oh, that's an amazing story. Just in the last few minutes, let's talk about Analog Tone Factory. Look at that beautiful slide.
Hey, Anthony, can I ask one more question before I pull a Jim here and do it at the end?
Okay, of course, Jack.
On the last trio album, the new one, how many, I mean, just average, how many takes on each tune? Was it 1, 2?
1 or 2.
Yeah, I figured.
Most of it is 1, and most of it we didn't even do a 2. Like there's like 2 completely improvised songs, beginning of side B and middle of side B. Body and Soul was 1 take. Gone with the Wind was 2 takes. I think that's
amazing.
2. What else is on the record? ESP was 1 take. Prelude to a Kiss was 1 take.
I love that song.
They're pretty much all 1 takes. And what I did was like we recorded a lot more than made the record.
Right.
And that's a strategy that I tend to use in recording sessions, where I'll come in with a really long list and I'll do things once or twice, 3 times tops. But basically, I try to get something that feels really good and has some magic and some interaction and feels like it's in the moment. And then I move on. And if I don't get it, I'm happy to move on to something else. Like I don't keep trying and trying and trying, because usually in jazz, my experience is that doesn't really work. It doesn't get better. It gets worse.
Well, your name's on the record, but it could have been any one of the 3 of you, because neither of you get in each other's way.
Yeah, I mean, it's really a trio. We're just trying to listen, and we're trying to have a good time and have a musical conversation. And Al Foster, to me, is, that's one of the things he's really amazing at. He's like one of the best listeners I've ever played with. Like everything he does relates to the song and what I play, and to something that everything he plays makes sense. Like nothing is ever random. Everything has an intent. He's really amazing that way. and I'm glad that I just got a chance to capture some of this and do it with them.
That's a great question, Jack. Okay, so just before we want to get to the Analog Tone Factory, so you see the slide there, and I think it was Alan said he loved that no computers were harmed in the making of our records, which is great. And I just want to just mention briefly before we let Jerome talk about the company and some of the things they're recording coming up. You can see a couple of names underneath. Dart Zeal, that incredible Swiss company that make those amazing, very expensive amplifiers and digital equipment. And Stenheim, also Swiss, I think. Swiss, and they make those speakers. And Carl, can you tell us a little story? Because you saw Jerome live at a Dart Zeal Stenheim event, didn't you?
No, it actually was at the power station where he recorded Heart, but I think it was in a lower level part of the studio. Isn't that correct, Jerome?
Yeah, the event was in Studio A, which is the bigger one, where a lot of great music was there and recorded there. And we recorded in C, which is also a great room. And they're both great rooms, and they're both like iconic rooms in New York. But the Stenheim event was in A, where we did Heart with C.
And that was what I must say, with all honesty, I've never heard live music sound like that ever. It just stunned me. It was that good. I was in a close seat nearest to the drummer. It wasn't Al. You had a different drummer that day, because I guess you couldn't get Al to do
it was
that.
Kush Abadi on drums.
But the bass, and you were on the left, and he was in the same positioning. It was unbelievable. So I say this because then we reviewers were expected to go into this room next door and listen to these speakers. And, I had to just be polite, and it was okay. There was just no way to compete with what you had just done live. It was just impossible. I don't think any speaker could have made up for it.
Carl called me right afterwards. He said, Anthony, he said, Dart Zeal stuff is incredible, Stenheim, and you listen, they're wonderful. But then you listen to Jerome live, like 5 feet from you. It's like when you went outside and you hear drums playing, it's real drums, and you know it's live. It's live music. Anyway, thank you so much, Carl.
That's never going to be the same. And it's like, I think they make incredible equipment, but
they do.
Like, there is going to be a difference between live music and recorded music.
That was really.
Hey, they've got the guts to say, hey, listen, here's our stuff, but here's Jerome live. Okay, so Jerome, tell us about Analog Tone Factory. How did you do it? Why did you do it? And what's going on with the company?
Well, basically 10 years ago, I started pressing vinyl, and No Filter, my previous record before that called The Turn, and Vintage were done for Sunnyside Records. But basically, I licensed the digital to them, and I kept the rights to everything analog, and I basically oversaw the whole analog production myself. So from the recording to the pressing, the mastering, and all that stuff. So I was basically doing all the analog part myself anyway. And for this record, Heart, I thought, well, why not go one step further and actually create a company and see if I can take the blueprint that I've been using for my record and make other records. So Heart is the first one on the label, but there will be others. And it's not just going to be my music. Actually, we have a recording session in November that I'm not quite ready to talk about quite yet, but it's with people, who have a name in jazz and who I love. So the idea is to be able to record other people as well, and also branch beyond jazz. And
here we go. Tell us, Jerome, what are you going to branch into?
Well, one of the things, and we discussed this a little bit with Anthony, was we would like to record some classical music. And I know this show is in no small part dedicated to that, and you're a classical musician yourself, and there's a lot of people listening. So we are actually hoping to branch out into classical, but also singer-songwriter, and just find musicians who would like to, who want to play everybody in the same room, who are willing to do a record with like no or little editing, which is very different than what people are doing now, also in the classical world. Because as I understand it, like most orchestra recordings, for example, not the old ones, but the new ones, they do it 10 seconds by 10 seconds, and then everything
chop
together in Pro Tools. So we're probably not ready to do an orchestra recording anyway, but we're thinking solo piano, solo violin, chamber.
I know what we've got. We got flute and viola, and jazz trumpet. It'll be a great mixture. and Jack is in it for a tuna sandwich. Jim is about a 5-pound note. But I'm sorry, Jerome.
No. I mean, I'm. That's great, and we're like.
I'm just teasing. What you should, but I think all the classical guys are there. I mean, Jerome's recordings are so beautiful that whoever gets a chance to record, whether it's a string quartet or it's a solo voice or solo piano, they're going to be very fortunate, and they're going to be bathed in the most beautiful sound. So take your time and choose. I know you'll choose wisely, Jerome. Jerome, it's very, very exciting. I have a question here for you from Notes and Tones. I don't think you know. I think you've been here before at Notes and Tones. Anyway, welcome. Can you read that? Can you read the question, Jerome?
Jerome curates the music program at Bar Bayou. What is his philosophy in selecting musicians to perform there? It's a really good question. So I have 1 day a week at Bar Bayou, which is a local venue in Brooklyn. That's actually where I'm heading after this, because the day that I curate music is Wednesday. So I started this about 4 years ago. It's a mix of things. Like, part of it is my personal taste, but I actually try to not let that dictate everything. I try to have a variety of music that I think is high level. And, if I like it, it's probably, I feel more of a kind of connection to it. But I also book some stuff that I don't necessarily always love myself, but that I realize is really good music. So I try to present a variety of styles, a diversity also of like performers and backgrounds and generations. And I try to give like the younger musicians a chance to play, but I also really love it when I can get like someone who's a veteran in. And sometimes having a veteran with like a younger band is also great, because as someone who values input from the jazz greats and who grew up listening to music here, like, I think it's really important for younger players to get to play with someone older. So, for example, that's what I've been trying to do with like Kenny Barron and Al Foster. I've booked people at the bar who got Billy Hart on drums, and of course, if a young musician approaches me and goes like, "Hey, I can get Billy on drums," like, I'm gonna be into it because he's one of the great drummers. And that's going to be, this is going to be great. So, but it's a tough thing to do, because I get asked for gigs all the time, and it's interesting to be on the other side of it, because I'm usually the one doing the asking. So, I'm booking a tour in Europe in October, and I have maybe 8 gigs or something like that. And I probably sent like 100 emails to get those 8 gigs. So I'm very used to rejection. And I'm used to be the one who's trying to like hustle a tour and stuff. So it's interesting being on the other side of that. And part of it frankly, is also, I got to think about the bar, and I got to think about sustaining the series. And so I got to think about, is the band going to draw? Like, and it's not the overarching consideration here, but it is a consideration, because, for example, if I have too many people who don't draw, then the series is going to fold. So I got to keep that in mind as well. So it's like a delicate kind of equation with everything.
That's amazing. A lovely comment from Cranberry Sauce. It says, Jerome's initiative in launching Analog Tone Factory is so great for us music lovers. Sure is. If you just, guys, go buy the records. I mean, just buy them. Just buy them. Just buy them. They're all of them. They're amazing. I expect his success will breed more success and create more analog converts with the younger generation. Absolutely great comment. I will tell you, just before we close up, the Jerome's records are absolutely beautiful. I mean, the proof's in the listening, and they talk about this analog sound. We've talked about digital is in our analog future. We have no choice about it, but there are very few outliers, and Jerome's one of them. So, Jerome, I know before I go, Jim, do you have a question?
Well, it's interesting. Just picking up a point that you said, Jerome, about recording orchestras. My experience now is that most orchestras are recording live from a concert.
Okay.
Are you planning on doing anything like that? I mean, obviously, you probably do that now, or are you thinking of doing that with the various ensembles that you either play with or put together? Just live?
Possibly, because we're using an Ampex 351 tape machine, which is really a great sounding machine. And one of the beauties of it is it's portable. So we could actually take it to a concert hall or to a jazz club. And we've actually taken it to Power Station for Heart because we didn't use their tape hours. So we could do that. And we also now have some very good microphones, and we're working on a couple of Altec 50s and 60s tube consoles, which we're also planning to use for recordings, and which are also at least somewhat portable. So we could theoretically show up to a great sounding spot and record, an orchestra. Maybe an orchestra feels ambitious just because of the financial aspects of it, but but possibly we could go to a jazz club. We could go to a smaller hall with chamber music, or even somewhere where there's a great piano and just record someone playing a solo piano set of either jazz or classical music or something. So those ideas are all kind of like in the mix, and we've basically tried to acquire enough knowledge and gear that we can actually do that, and we don't have to be locked into going to a studio for everything. So we'll see what the future brings, but that is definitely something that we would like to do one way or another.
Great question, Jim. Yeah. But even more important, Alan has a question for you, Jerome. Go ahead, read the question, bud.
Jerome, Red Sox or Yankees? Man, I gotta say, I was born in Paris and I know nothing about this. I know that these are two teams, and like I'm probably gonna get completely burned on like being a New Yorker. Okay, Yankees, because I live in New York now, but like I'm not the right person to ask this question. Sorry.
Louis asks, he's just received a test pressing of Jerome's The Turn.
Oh, wow.
Stuff. What's the Turn?
So The Turn is the first recording that made it onto vinyl that I did. It's actually the record that started everything, and this was 10 years ago in 2004. And basically, that record wasn't necessarily going to be issued on vinyl. Exactly, Doug Sax mastered The Turn. So what happened is, like, I asked Doug Sax to master The Turn, and he did. And then he basically suggested to me that because the recording was really good and, he did a great job on it, and he thought it sounded good. So he was like, we have a CD of this, and we did high-res digital too. Like there's like 192, 24 files of this record. But he basically suggested to me that I should get him to cut it on vinyl. And Sunnyside had no desire to do that. I didn't have money to do that. So I did a Kickstarter campaign, a fundraiser.
Oh, cool.
I was basically, okay, this record is out. I have one of the greatest mastering engineers of all time who is offering to cut it to vinyl. I need I think it was $6,000 or something like that to do it at the time. My budgeting wasn't very good, so it ended up being more than that. But that's what I asked for, and then I got it on Kickstarter, and that's how this record came to be on vinyl. Then a few people reviewed it. I think Stereophile reviewed it, Michael Fremer reviewed it, and really liked it, and that was really helpful because then a bunch of people bought it, and that was the beginning of this whole adventure, because then I was like, okay, let's plan one from the get-go, and that was No Filter, and let's do it with the idea that we're going to do like an all analog vinyl from the get-go, and let's try to plan for that. And little by little, I'm hoping that I've gotten better at it, and that's what launched the whole thing. But the cool thing about Doug Sax, who, I love his work, he's really one of my favorite mastering engineers of all time for sure. But what was great is I contacted him and I was like, look, I'm not gonna fly to California. I love your work, but would you do a test track for me and let me check it out, and I'll pay you whatever you want for the track, but I want to hear it, which was kind of brazen of me to do.
Wow.
And He did. And 2 days later, I got my test track back. Two different ways. I like this. I like that. Tell me what you think. And of course, like, his test tracks were great. And that's how I hired him to do the record.
Wonderful.
But he was okay doing that. He actually sent me a test track and it sounded amazing. And then I was like, all right, let's do the record. And I love that he was willing to actually do that and be like, okay, you know what, I can make this sound great, here it is, boom, and not be offended by my question. I mean, I also took great pains to let him know that, you know, I knew his work and I had this record and that record and that record and I really loved it. But, you know, sometimes, like, even with people you love, like, working with them is not always a great fit. So I just wanted to make sure that, like, I was going to get the results that I needed. And he was totally cool about it and did a fantastic job on this record. And I think one thing that distinguishes him and other great engineers, like I've been working with Bernie Grundman's, you know, same generation, also super great. So I think what separates these guys from a lot of others is, like, they have an incredible chain of equipment. They have great ears, but they're also willing to not do a lot. They're willing to do just what it takes to take your project and make it better. But if it's nothing and they're just doing a flat transfer, they're also okay doing that. Or if it's just like a little bit of EQ in the right spot, they're totally fine doing that. They don't have to turn it into what it's not. And, like, with Doug Sachs, that's what I got. And with Bernie too. Like, they know just to do the right thing, which is going to make it better. And it's okay if it's not a lot. Like, they don't feel they have to do a lot, and I think that's an amazing quality in a mastering engineer.
Listen, Jerome, I cannot thank you enough on behalf of our team for coming up tonight. I know you're very, very busy, and you got the European tours coming up. Boy, but what a treat! I mean, your records.
Jerome, just do us all one favor, though. Keep playing the saxophone. Don't turn into Doug Sachs and Al Schmidt and all these great engineers. Keep doing what you're doing with
the thing about it, Jack, is some people can multitask, and Jerome's one of those guys, man. He can make great records and create great stuff, and of course, be a brilliant sax player. Anyway, well, Jerome,
I'm trying, but thank you for the support and
safe travels to Europe and continue. Best of luck with Bar Bayeux and of course with Analog Tone Factory, and most of all with your brilliant playing. It gives us constant pleasure. Just incredible playing. Thank you so much for coming on tonight.
Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome. Have a great evening.
All right.
Yeah.
All the best, Jerome. Take care.
I'll come to the concert soon.
Wow. Hey, Jim. Oh, I got one question for you, Jerome. Oh, come back, Jerome. I got one question.
Anthony, you gotta go 2 hours on this thing.
No. Maybe they like to see you, Jack. They don't want to see me for 2 hours. Trust me. And as I said to my mother, was yelling at me or something. I said, you know, Mom, I'm an acquired taste. she went, yeah, I think you are. Anyway, no, but thank you. It's when we do concerts, you know, you always get these amateur guys that do concerts, and you got to show up and you got to conduct them, and they want to do a 3-hour concert. Can we do 4 encore? Oh Christ, right? And I was doing one concert once, and Jim was there. It was this beautiful marquee, and it was a semi-pro band. And there was an old trumpet player had been there for years and years and years, a grumpy old guy. We were doing the Titanic, the theme from Titanic, and I'm conducting away this stupid 2-chord nonsense, right? I'm playing away. And the audience are loving it, and the band are playing it very nicely. But just on a very important trumpet solo, the trumpet player comes in 2 bars early, right? And I'm yelling, you've been there, I'm yelling, bar 21, bar 25, jump to 7, you know, oh God. Anyway, we got to the end. I come off the stage. I'm like, just, oh God. And Jim goes, don't worry about it, Anthony. The ship just sank a little early tonight. One of the best lines ever. Anyway, so yeah, but what I was trying to say is, Jack, is that we want to leave them wanting more, not less. Like, click, Anthony's on, Jim's on. Jim's, is that Scott showing another goddamn click? We want them to come. We want them to come back every week. Yeah. But I see your point. Jerome is an incredible guest. I mean, I could have chatted to
the guests you've had already were all incredible, and they got to come back.
Well, we've got. I just took it off the backstage, but we have on the 28th it was supposed to be the 21st, but there was a bit of a mix up with his wife's birthday. So he's on the 28th. That's John Stratton. He made that beautiful turntable behind me. He has some secrets he's going to be telling. I knew Jerome was going to be doing classical music. Isn't that wonderful? So whoever they string quartet or solo piano or whatever, they're very lucky because they're going to get a beautiful sounding record. And of course, we'll all review it, and it'll be a big deal because it's got Jerome's stamp of approval. You know, he's an amazing guy. So yeah, it's wonderful. The guests are wonderful. And once in a while, I like to have 90 minutes just with you guys, just to shoot the crap and talk about concerts and show some records. So talking of which, Jim, you have some records to show. I'm going to put you large.
Yeah, I've got a few.
Yeah. Well, Scott's away. The mouse and the mice will
come out to play.
Yeah. Now listen, I guarantee you that Scott's he's doing the what's it called? He's on the peanut gallery. Listen, I've got a very important note here from James Myers. James is the father of the guys in the Calidore String Quartet. Now that would be a great connection that we could make on this show. So James just ordered hard. I think you'll really enjoy it, James. But definitely Calidore, if you're watching the string quartet, which they did their Beethoven, I just loved it. I mean, I'm not just saying it because it was James. It was really good and very consistent with the Beethoven late quartets. But boy, getting some Beethoven quartets or maybe a Ravel, Debussy string quartet compilation for the first one with the Calidore on Analog Tone Factory, that would be wonderful. Great idea, James. Really good. Okay, Jim, go ahead.
Well, we were talking a few weeks ago about Ace of Diamonds Decca label, and I came across a couple of interesting ones. So again, virtually pristine this week. This is Beethoven Piano Concerto No. 1 on the Choral Fantasy with Julius Katchen.
That's an amazing record.
The London Symphony with Piero Gamba, and again, it's beautiful condition record. I don't think it's been played more than once. Fabulous little label. But I really like these Ace of Diamonds, and they're good, solid pressing as well, aren't they?
Yeah, Scott I know Scott likes them, but they're two, Pierino Gamba, his claim to fame was that one or two recordings with the LSO and the Winnipeg Symphony. That's
he was wasn't he about 9 when he recorded that concerto with and with what was his name? I can't remember the violinist now. And then there's another one here, which is music of Wolf Ferrari's, another Ace of.
Oh, these are great! Oh, great! That's a rare one, Jim.
Paris Concerto on Nello Santi. Again, beautiful condition. I mean, the pressing is virtually brand new. I mean, it's not. So that's another one there. Then
99 pence, Jim?
Yeah, they're 99 pence.
Oh, bugger off! You've hit two great records. Scott, I hope you're watching.
This is great. This is Stravinsky Conductor Oedipus Rex on CBS. And I didn't know, but the narrator is a guy called an actor called John Westbrook. He actually, funnily enough, I mean, he passed away in the early 1990s, but he, I did a Survivor from Warsaw with him. I think it was in Manchester or Birmingham at one point.
The Schoenberg piece.
Yeah, the Schoenberg Survivor from Warsaw. But I didn't realize that he narrated this recording with the Opera Society of Washington, D.C. And it's great. I really like that piece. And going we're going a little bit into history now. Lama Nocturnes, Orchestra Suisse Romande, Ernest Altomé.
Lovely.
With a Decca original mono. And again, beautiful condition. Lovely little, if I can get it out. I don't know, it's got stuck in the top. But it must be 1960. 1960. And then finally, well, there's two here. One is the Elgar anniversary edition of the Elgar String Quartet and Vaughan Williams String Quartet with the Aeolian String Quartet, that's
another great record and rare.
Sidney Humphreys, Raymond Keenly side, Watson Forbes on viola, and Derek Simpson on cello, of course, the great Derek Simpson. And just to finish off, Beethoven's Eroica, Vienna Philharmonic Kleiber, an original mono, again, very good condition. And it's a Decorative Clubs one as well, and it's fab.
That's serious craziness. I mean, all joking aside, I know Scott would really appreciate those records. Very good. Just want to welcome back Sky to the panel. Hi, Sky. How are you?
Good evening, all. Very good. How are you?
Oh, it's lovely to see you again. You were a great hit last week.
Thank you, Jim.
So much so, I know that one of the people on this peanut gallery ordered. Oh, Frederick ordered the Janacek Quartet. I ordered both of them straight away. I went straight to the two records you got. So they're not here yet, but when they do come, I'll show them and I'll clean them and have a listen. I'm looking forward to hearing, getting your recommendations.
Yeah, Jim, how is that Eroica from with Beethoven? Does that sound really good?
Yeah, it does. It does. It's the actual original 1954 mono pressing.
That looks really fantastic.
It does, and it's a good heavy, quite heavy. It's a good heavy record.
That's fabulous.
Those early Deckers were really good, I think.
They're really good.
Jack, do you have any records to show tonight?
You know what? I do, but I'm going to defer. We got Carl and his equipment.
And that's right. We got 15 minutes. We'll do Carl.
We'll wait till next week.
Okay, Jack, I'll tell you, there's one conductor of this bus. It's me. Okay. That's what they say in England. Okay, let me just get.
You were going to quote the quote that I said to you earlier today, Anthony.
I'm just teasing you, but Carl, can you unmute, please? Can you unmute?
There we go.
Okay, Carl. So tell us a little bit. I know that you've been very busy and traveling. Anything for streaming this week, and maybe show us a little bit of your equipment? Can you walk around?
A quick thing about streaming. Jerome was very kind a while back to give me a 24/192 digital copy of Heart that I've been listening to. So I've heard it because I had heard it live a bit at the power station, and I have a 24/192 which will be released at the end of August with the LPs to the general public. It sounds wonderful, and I've been listening to that all day today as well. Beyond that, I just a quick report about what I did when I came home. New York Return. I'm starting a new playlist, okay, to entertain everybody when I have a chance. I don't have a lot to say, but there was one by Alfred Brendel that was redone from the 60s, which I thought was wonderful. It's this one here.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, lovely. On Vox. Very nice.
It came out, it's remastered or something. I thought it sounded
very early Brendel.
Yeah, very early Brendel. So that's about all I have to say about that. I could just give a little.
Could you please show us around?
Yeah.
Are you able to?
Yeah. I just hope there's enough light. I'll try. It's getting dark here. When I was in Indonesia, of course, it was like 7 a.m, and now I'm here and it's 8 o'clock at night, the night before. So it's really mind-boggling this time change. But here, I'll just kind of move this around so I can show. These are the Alta Audio Atom speakers, and then I've got other equipment I have. Well, there's some LPs that I'll have to put in order and maybe show some someday. That's a Mojo Audio DAC. This is what I had in Indonesia, headphone hi-fi man equipment.
There's that CD player that you have.
Jay's Audio CD player.
Red book only.
Red book only. Weighs 50 pounds. My back still hurts putting it back up there. The Deja Vu is a music server which is connected Ethernet cabled to the internet, and then the DAC takes over from there. This is a PS Audio EHK preamplifier, and then Ben Elstein monoblock amps, and a couple of power things at the bottom. This, of course, is the VPI HW40 turntable, and down here is the Past Labs XP17 photo stage. I think that covers it. The rest of the apartment's a big mess, so I shouldn't show anything. Okay, I'm still recuperating. So there you go.
Carl has some beautiful paintings in his house, and he got
Friday, the painter invited me over to his home, he wants to catch up with me, and he has new paintings to show. So I'm looking forward to that on Friday.
Fantastic. They're worth quite a bit of money now.
Where? Riverside and where?
Oh, right near 116th Street, which is where Columbia University's.
Man, I'll tell you what, there used to be, I don't know if it still is, but I knew hundreds of musicians lived right in that area. It used to be a big musician hangout.
Yeah,
area.
there's the Manhattan School of Music is right up the street.
Yep.
Things like that. Yeah.
Carl, you've got a couple of questions from Alan Cartridge MC, and then Tech Writer. What cartridge? They want to know.
Yeah, I have the here, I can show it. It's made of wood, the famous ones made in Brooklyn here, right? The Grotto. It's the second highest one.
Eon, isn't it? Aeon.
It's the third generation of the Eon, and I love it. That's what I have.
What's the retail on that, Carl?
It's about 6,000.
Beautiful.
What else? What was the other question? I didn't remember now.
Both the same. Both what cartridge?
Oh, okay. Yeah, the Grado. Yeah, right.
Fabulous, Carl. Well, I'm so glad you're home.
Nice
Seriously, we're glad you're back, safe and sound. I know.
Sure.
When does the family get back? When do they walk through the front door?
Next week. They're out. They all moved out of the place we were living.
Near the volcano.
Yeah, right. And they're heading over to see her parents for a couple of days, and then they're getting to Jakarta to fly back home, and then preparing everything.
Tech Writer has a question for you. Do you have a SUT?
What is that again? A SUT
Okay, he doesn't have one. He has the that beautiful Nelson Pass XP17.
Yeah.
But even the great Nelson Pass's products, including my Phase Mation, benefit from a great SUT because it takes away the stresses of the moving coil and just the moving magnet, which is.
I have a moving magnets. I have a moving iron, so it isn't really.
Yeah, that's right. The moving. I'm not sure how that would work with this SUT. Maybe somebody in the audience could tell us if a moving iron.
You use 47 kilohertz. You don't have to use. You can do that with most of these modern preamps. So for that, you probably wouldn't need it, but for moving coils, I'm sure I've heard many examples where it's very useful and helpful. They're one of them.
Fantastic, Carl. Well, we're coming close to the end. I'm going to go through some questions. Sky, do you have anything to show us tonight, just in case?
Sure, I have two for you.
Okay, well, because Jack took over the stream and said, "Anthony, we're not doing me now. We're going to Carl." So I had to. I love teasing Jack. Okay, hang on. Jan will yell at me if I tease Jack because she loves that man. Okay, let me just. Okay, so this guy. Okay, go ahead, Sky.
Okay, I'm sticking with the budget, so no need to show really London blue bags or more expensive, hard to find albums. I have two Philips for you, and this Schubert.
I got it. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
If you don't have this record, I highly recommend it. Will cost you about $5 or more.
Yeah, it's $5. It's a fantastic record,
and it sounds fantastic. It really does sound fantastic.
I did a video about Philips pressings. A lot of very, very high quality sounding records, and most of them with Brendel on them.
Another Philips, as a huge chamber music fan,
just move it over this way. There. The Orlando, great Dutch quartet.
The really Orlando quartet, especially the string quartet in F American. It is so melodic. It is very rich. It's very precise. It just makes a really great night listening with this. So I highly recommend it. It sounds fantastic.
That's a great quartet. I've got them doing their I think, yes, the Debussy and Ravel. It's on the Dream list. It's so good. Just want to put up Notes and Tones for a second. Notes and Tones. Anthony, just received the Eleanor Alberga and the Janine Jansen that you recommended. Looking forward to listening to them. Oh, that's great. Well, the Janine Jansen, her Sibelius is amazing. But Eleanor is the lady that is Tom Bose's, my buddy, our buddy Tom Bose's wife. She didn't come on the show. We had photographs of her CDs and stuff. Chamber music, and Tom's doing her violin concertos. She's a wonderful, wonderful composer. Great, Sky. Well, that's wonderful. Thank you for showing. Please come up every week and show records. I put up the link tonight and said, please come up and be brave. And of course, Sky was again. But Scott's away. We still have one space available. But guess what? Nobody else came up. We were looking for somebody in particular. His name is Joey. But he didn't come.
Joey, you should come up. Come up
another time. Anyway, guys, we just have a couple of seconds here. So what's crack-a-lacking this week? Sky, do you have anything on this week? Are you going to go out buy a new record in Kansas City?
No, I actually just got my new phono preamp, so I haven't really actually hooked it up yet. So we'll see how that works.
What's the phono preamp? Did you say you were getting another audio research?
Not audio research. I end up getting Lab 12 from Greece. It's Melto, so it has, because I have two turntables and 3 tone arms, so I really wanted that 3 input. So I'm glad that I have that option now.
Yes, I've reviewed Lab stuff. They're quite nice stuff. I've got 3 in mine for my Phasmation. It's lovely stuff. Would you mind asking, did you buy it retail or did you buy it secondhand?
I bought it as a store demo.
Store demo.
Yes.
Good. Yeah, great.
From New Jersey. Yeah.
Wonderful. Enjoy. Wonderful. It's tubes, right?
It is tubes. Yeah.
They do use nice tubes. Okay, guys. So I'm just going to go through some of the questions, some of the comments from the gang. So Crab Resource says thanks everyone for another wonderful show. And thanks for the tour. That's to Carl. After the 7-month drought, enjoy the music on your fine system.
Thank you.
He will. I know. Frederick just ordered the Janacek that Sky recommended. So did I. And that record, Jim, it was with Gamba was with
That's right. Yeah.
And Louis says, good stuff, guys. And for Jerome, if he's still watching, Alan, really enjoyed your presentation tonight, Jerome. Many thanks. Joey, of course, said thank you, Jerome. And so we've got some great stuff tonight. If that really definitely the Calidor, they should contact Jerome and send him send him one of those the late Beethovens. They're really wonderful.
Yeah, I'll order 2.
Anyway, thank you so much for tonight, guys. Have a wonderful week. I know that Scott will be back next week. Jim, thanks so much for pinch hitting as co-host tonight with that lush rampant hair. I can't even compete. Amazing.
Can't compete.
And Carl, it's wonderful to have you home. It really is. We missed you terribly. I know it was great for your family and that and your sabbatical, but I'm glad you're home. And all teasing aside, get those speakers in and get cracking.
Don't worry.
Carl's going to be reviewing the Alto Audio. What are they called? The
newest one. The newest technique.
The newest one. The Aphrodite. They're very beautiful.
Yeah, right.
And we'll be seeing them in if we get a chance to go to Seattle. It'll be fun. Jack, what do you got on this weekend? Anything special?
Just a couple photo trips and local and trying to keep cool.
Listen to music.
Oh,
so thank you all for tonight. Have a great week, everybody. Sky, thanks for coming on and being brave again. It's wonderful to have you come every week, and it's lovely. Those great records, fantastic. The Brentel on Phillips are just, and also the Orlando Quartet, wonderful. So thank you very much, everybody. Have a great week. See you next week. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Just give me a sec.